It's been approximately 30 chapters since we've seen Boruto use the Karma Seal. Yes, you heard right, 30 chapters. So I think we all expected this to happen sooner or later. The Karma Seal represents Boruto's Otsutsuki DNA, one of the biggest aspects of his character ever since he became 100% Otsutsuki. So whether he likes it or not, it's a part of him now. The part of him that he's afraid of. The part of him that got him in the situation he's in now. But it's also the reason why he was chosen by fate to carry out this mission to save the planet. So this is why I feel that Boruto's biggest obstacle in his life isn't going to be against any specific person, not Kawaki, not Jura, not Konoha. His biggest obstacle is going to be against himself. And once he accepts himself for what he truly is, he will be truly, and I do mean when I say this, truly unstoppable. Now, how did we even get here? How did we get to this point you see here at the end of chapter 28? Boruto for the entirety of part 1 and Tuba Vortex has been terrified of not only Momoshiki, but himself. And this fear of himself has been building up over time. Time after time, he's been putting those he loves in the absolute worst situations. Ever since Momoshiki's first manifestation, things have been spiraling down, and fast. He almost killed Sasuke, Kawaki, and Naruto in an entirely different dimension. And he actually almost killed Naruto against Code, not to mention beating Kawaki to a pulp on multiple occasions. Yeah, it's pretty safe to say he's caused more than a bruise or scrape to his comrades. People underestimate how much of a mental toll this could have on a person. It can trigger some deeply rooted anxiety and depression if held onto internally. And for the past few years, Boruto has been fighting this uphill battle with himself. And it's gotten to the point where he doesn't even use the karma anymore. He stated that when him and Sasuke fought against Code, he tried using the Karma Seal for the first time since he left Konoha. Against an overwhelming force, he found himself with no other choice but to rely on his power to get him and Sasuke out this situation alive. But once he used his power, the feeling came back. The feeling that is the root to all of Boruto's psychological trauma. He described it as a feeling where he stopped being him. A feeling where he started dying while being fully conscious and aware. It was then he decided to stop using the karma from then on. This feeling is now not only tied to seeing his friends and family being killed by him. Like I said earlier, it's also the reason why Kawaki felt the need to seal Naruto, which led to his current circumstance. So now the trauma he's being faced with is just piling on, which caused him to be even more afraid of the power that's now in his DNA. So we see as time goes on, it's only gotten worse. At least back then he attempted to use his karma voluntarily, but later when he faced Kawaki, resonance caused his karma to activate. As soon as this happened, he ran away as fast as he possibly could because he knew what would happen if the karma activated, or what would potentially happen. Over time, Boruto's control over not only karma, but his own consciousness would slowly become worse and worse. And this is not only because his body has become more Otsutsuki, but it's also because his mental state has deteriorated, making it easier for Momoshiki to take over his body. It's once gotten to the point where he could take over Boruto's body whenever he wants. Since the Shinju emerged, they have been able to put Boruto in the toughest position of his life. They're actively forcing him to revisit old trauma. Jura presents one of the strongest antagonists and obstacles for not only Boruto, but the entire planet. He's not someone you can defeat without extra power. I'd go as far as to say no ordinary shinobi or man could even come close to defeating him. And even speaking on the rest of the Shinju, they require some extraordinary power to defeat them as well. So when you're presented with an anomaly, you're expected to do more. We've seen what happened when Boruto first fought Jura. He was massively outmatched in pure strength and firepower, but he never once thought to turn to the karma, even when it was only him and Jura in the nearby vicinity. And for that, he paid for it. And you know what happened right after he took that butt whooping? He did exactly what he did in his fight with Code. Both times, I might add. Versus overwhelming power, he again is forced to use the power that he forbid because he realized it's his only way out of this situation. In chapter 25, Boruto made a decision that shocked every reader. Instead of fighting against Momoshiki and his motives, he decided to offer up what he always wanted in order to gain power, his own body. He finally comes to terms with his need for power to deal with these monsters. But this time, it was him fully giving up to that side of him. not accepting and embracing that side of himself. And with that mindset, Boruto will never truly be able to control his Otsutsuki power. It will always overwhelm him, which is why he's so afraid of it. So it's true that Boruto has been granted power to use against the Shinju whenever he pleases, at least until they finally defeat Jura, but it's merely a stopgap measure to a bigger problem. And Boruto must realize that he will never truly achieve his real goals if he lets himself be consumed by Momoshiki's sadistic ideals. It's now that Boruto is yet again finally using the karma against a superior foe. From his first encounter with Mamushi, we see that this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone at all. Throughout this sequence, Boruto was a victim to the Shinju's overwhelming physical power. The pressure was enough to apparently put him on the defensive to try and get away from him, using the flying Raijin and any other diversion attacks. And it wasn't just Mamushi. Hidari cancelling out his Rasengan, Matsuri trapping him in her Earth-style jutsu. This was Ikimoto telling us that Boruto by himself wasn't enough to get it done. Even though he just destroyed Code without the need for the karma, against the Shinju, that just wasn't going to be the case. And now later on in the series, it's the same case, fighting against Mamushi yet again and being overwhelmed by pure strength. It wasn't until he literally had no choice but to activate the karma when he actually did it. I know it wasn't as voluntary as you would like, but I believe this could be the first step he needs to start accepting himself. The reason he asked Momoshiki for power in the first place was because he came to the realization that he needs the karma to combat the Shinju and win. That step was needed for him to start his redemption arc. Boruto isn't going to be giving his body to Momoshiki, and he knows this can't happen for obvious reasons. So his only choice is control, gaining control over the karma. But no amount of training is going to allow him to do that, because it doesn't start in the physical realm, it starts in the mind, in the psyche. Boruto has to be able to overcome his deep trauma and heal. It's only then will he unlock the full extent of the karma's power, and for that he has to confront the trauma directly, Momoshiki. To be honest, this is why I made that video where I explained why a battle between Boruto and Momoshiki was imminent. It's going to be a battle for control. And this doesn't have to be a physical battle. It can be Boruto confronting him in another way too. But it'll most likely be a battle, and I'm pretty sure everyone will want to see that because it's shonen, duh. But I'm saying not every confrontation has to be physical. The point is Boruto expressing that he's not afraid anymore. He accepts Momoshiki as a part of him, whether he likes it or not. But who am I kidding? Even I would love to see a rematch from part 1, but this time no help from Naruto and Sasuke. A one-on-one for all the marbles. And if Boruto reigns supreme, it'll symbolize not only his dominance over Momoshiki, but his growth as a shinobi and as a young man. It'll show us he's mentally ready to control the karma's power. And Ikimoto briefly showed us what that looks like already too. It's the karma's true essence form. In this form, the karma gave Boruto the full Otsutsuki battle experience and combative abilities while still keeping control over his body. It wasn't just a simple power boost, he gained all of the abilities of Momoshiki for that short amount of time. But the control over these abilities was limited. It didn't last long because this form increases the likelihood of being possessed. And that's what happened. He got possessed by Momoshiki. But in that short amount of time, Boruto greatly exceeded his own physical strength and was easily able to match and overwhelm the likes of Code. In Tubular Vortex, the power that Boruto is expected to display is double, if not triple than what we've seen in part 1. Not only because his experience as an Otsutsuki has increased, but because his base ability is also heightened. Since Boruto and Momoshiki's souls are intertwined, they can make each other stronger. As Momoshiki would make Boruto stronger, the same would go for Momoshiki. That's why I expressed the idea of Boruto just willingly giving up his body to Momoshiki is a no-go. It's because of how strong Boruto got throughout the time skip. They can see what each other is seeing and hear what each other is hearing or thinking. You can't give him access to an instantaneous space-time ninjutsu like the Flying Raijin, or the strongest, most broken Rasengan in its existence. Because no matter how Momoshiki appears to be, you never really know his true motives behind all that depression. And once he finally gets what he wants, it's all over. There's no going back. Now, to say we lack context in multiple of these situations would be a crazy understatement. Ikimoto owes us some flashbacks, but not flashbacks to things that we already seen. I'm talking about off-screen subjects, Since Boruto said he used the Karma versus Code a couple years ago, we need to see exactly how that fight went down and what led to the events of Sasuke slashing Code's eye. Because it could have something to do with Boruto's heavy reluctancy to use the Karma going into Tuba Vortex. And also, it's just more content for him to use, and it adds way more value in lore to the story. So why not? Or something more relevant to the story right now, we can see the continuation of the conversation between Boruto and Momoshiki. Because I doubt that Boruto told him he can have his body without any conditions. That would be anti-productive. You might as well let the Shinju fully develop into divine trees, because that was Momoshiki's goal anyway, and we don't know of any other motives he has except cultivating the divine tree to gain immortality. So to add more detail to that situation is really important to the story. But right now the story is just mainly focused on showing us Boruto's karma power, because the amount of power Boruto has access to when his karma is active has changed. Unlike any time before, he temporarily has Momoshiki's full support, meaning there isn't any limit to what he can do now. What does that mean? That means abilities like chakra rods, which Momoshiki used against Naruto, immense physical strength, better chakra absorption, control, and perception, even if we may not see it due to them fighting in Konoha, summonings like, I hope I'm saying this right, Inukai Tekaruno Mikoto, and this golem right here. And you can also include tool manipulation. That's just an example of things he could be capable of since he was granted no resistance by Momoshiki in using his power. So it's really a big difference in his strength now. Completely night and day. Ikimoto is showing us this just so we can see what Boruto could be capable of. Because as we know, this is all temporary until he finds a way to gain full control over the karma. He could also have newer abilities too, like the Rasendan, which is technically a variant of the Rasengan that was created by and belongs to Momoshiki. And it also gives Ikimoto room to display some abilities that Momoshiki never showed us before, like the existence of his very own shinjutsu. So there's so much story building and character development ready for the likes of Boruto. And it starts next chapter when he finally faces against the Shinju using the karma. That's why this is such a big deal. It's a step in the right direction for the story and Boruto's character. Now let me ask you something. What abilities would you want to see Boruto wield? Any known ones like Rasendan or the chakra rods? If so, let me know down below in the comment section. Let's start a little discussion. So I think I'm gonna end the video off here. This is a pretty good spot to stop. Before I see anything else though, you guys know we're experimenting with the new hype feature on YouTube. It's supposed to push your videos further into the YouTube algorithm than it does already. So if you're feeling generous today, I would deeply appreciate it if you could all do that for me. It means a lot. But remember, if you enjoyed this video and don't mind seeing more like this in the near future, go ahead and like the video, comment, subscribe, and turn on the post notifications so you don't miss another video like this, or when I go live for chapter spoilers. And until my next one, I'll see you boys and girls later, and I'm out. Peace.